Hey, welcome back, everybody, to the Golden Dice podcast. It is Tommy again, taking over for Jack as he proceeds to slack off. He's definitely not like working or anything else important like that.
It doesn't work. Neither of the other two work.
Now they're basically like hobos.
Yeah, they're
Um,
freeloaders.
but I guess my co-host for the night needs no introduction. His name is spammed across our Discord by the likes of everyone in there. It's Scott E.
You know what? I think I have to let them in on the secret. I've turned off all alerts on Discord, so I don't even notice when they do that until I go to check back like later in the day, and I see like the Discord chat's padded by like 7 messages.
Well, they don't actually tag you in it. They just put it in there so you can randomly sprinkle your name through it as you sift through the.
That's how it should be.
So yeah, we got a little bit of an episode. There's not really much going on in the Destiny world right now. There's
Nah.
nothing, no like good spoilers out there. There's no Vader to talk about or like a massive leak or if that's good or bad or who knows. I don't know, but there is nothing but action going on for Destiny right now. My headspace is completely clogged.
No,
So
is it a leak?
I would imagine it's a leak since we're getting pictures of actual cards.
Yeah, but no, nobody's sold. Like we're getting pictures of actual cards, which means someone opened something, but no one's selling anything.
I guess if it's not sold, it's not breaking street date because they could be, I mean, for all we know, they could be somebody packing up something equivalent to a saga set or loading up on singles so that they can start posting them to websites for pre-order. I don't know.
I mean, if you were a store and you got product in and you were going to sell uh, unsealed product, the first thing you would do would open it so you could find what type of inventory levels you were looking at.
Sure, and also you want to have an idea what kind of hype level is out there. So putting the cards out there isn't a bad business strategy either.
I mean, to be fair, we're what, 1 week, exactly 1 week away from release, and there's still a lot of questions about where spoilers are going to be coming from, if spoilers are going to be coming. So I think this is a natural byproduct of that.
Yeah, yeah. That that's the rate at which spoilers are released. I mean, we were fortunate enough to receive some spoilers from FFG. I know that there's a lot of content creators who weren't, but I guess that's just part of it. Um, but we were fortunate, and they decide the rate that those go out. So I mean, this is inevitable. It is kind of I do miss the days of not knowing what's in a pack when you open it or a set rather, but that's a thing that I can live with. I also like having the spoilers now because now basically all day long I just daydream about what I'm going to make, how to counter things. I'm just like a little schoolboy over here, Scott.
You are perpetually a little schoolboy, and like I get the surprise factor, like being cool and all. I don't think that's a thing anymore in games nowadays. It's just not the way, the world works anymore. But I especially don't think it can fly with the way FFG puts out product, in which, there's a little bit more of a gap between sets than most other CCGs. There's always that kind of persistent question of, is FFG going to hit their dates? When is it actually coming out? Has FFG announced when this is coming out, or do we just know that it's coming out next week because stores know?
I don't believe FFG has officially announced anything on their website. I know that I think our 12-year-old or some sort of AI bot Inception, there's a debate on who he actually is or if he
Or
is
if he
categorized
is.
as a yeah, if he is. I think that he linked an image of something that said November 8th in our Discord, but I'm not 100% positive. Regardless, we've got confirmation from multiple retailers
Yeah.
that November 8th is the day. So
So what I'm saying is none of that's coming from FFG. So
correct.
I don't think they're in a position to not do spoilers, because they're not even giving like release dates. They need to do spoilers just to calm the masses.
Yeah, for sure. There was some
Especially
panic.
because people get to that fever pitch towards the end of any meta. Even in this case where they're basically hitting the target. This is coming out in the appropriate time frame. This is exactly what you'd expect. But because of their past history and because of their lack of communication, or they're not communicating release dates and things like that, people start getting a little antsy. towards the end there. So I don't think FFG has the leeway of playing the, oh, we want to have a surprise factor when people open packs. I'm like, no, 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 no. You don't have the, the built up capital of trust to do that.
For sure, for sure. I wasn't implying that they did. More just in a perfect world, that used to be something that I enjoyed, like exploring and experiencing a set. As you're opening it, with the exception of maybe like a 25% spoiler. Um, but all that aside, I mean, it is what it is now. We got the set. Everybody's brainstorming. Everybody wants everything on the DB. What I really want is the balance of the force sheet to be updated, or the holocron document, or whatever it is. I'm hoping that we get that on release day again, so that we have a starting point, because there are many cards from the previous sets that were in question, or are in a gray spot where no one's really sure if they're going to get touched or not, and that really could impact a lot of decks going forward, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, well, I mean, if the two most popular, characters in the set get hit with Balance of the Force, that's gonna be a big deal.
Yeah,
And
and well, one other thing is that as you spoke of, FFG not really having the goodwill, to lean on. I mean, you release a spoiler article with the most iconic villain of all time, in my opinion, and it seems like a lot of people kind of just go, like, the hype just goes through the roof. I mean, I was excited. I'm probably not even going to play this character, and I was freaking out. I mean, I'm just excited to see that character, that thematic, bringing not a new archetype, but reviving the big little archetype, presumably, and it's exciting, and that in itself almost restored, like, the calm, not the calm, but like the reassurance, like, okay, we're all right, because there's this Vader card that everybody wants.
yeah, I definitely, FFG can sometimes trip over their own 2 feet when it comes to their marketing, whether, it's the running joke that every one of their preview articles has incorrect rules information in it, and that's not just Destiny wise, that's every game FFG ever does. That's always been the funny thing. Or sometimes they preview cards that you're like, all right, why did you choose to waste your website space on that when there's so many more interesting things in the set? Or even if you look at like promos, where there's always the question of like, who picked that? But whoever picked Vader for their spoiler right before release article, A+ job. Whoever did that, you
Yeah,
deserve a raise.
yeah,
You
they picked the right ones.
They should pick the promos.
Oh, 100%.
Whoever is that person should
100%.
also pick the promos. They seem to have a little bit of an idea that people like good things and things that were in a lot of the movies. Those tend to go over well.
Well, as far as game design goes, I would argue that at this point, um, I mean, I know that there are people that are upset that blue is as prominent as it is, but to be honest, the majority of the main, like, really main focal point characters of the entire, canon, it are blue characters, or force characters. So they've done a good job of making Yoda extremely powerful. Maybe too good of a job. I guess you could say Snoke, even though he's not as main as like a Yoda or like a Luke. I think Luke 3 is a phenomenal character. I think this new Vader is a phenomenal character, and this is all in a vacuum of this current meta. If you look to the older meta, you have, Vader is a good example there. I know that there's always been characters such as the notorious Balatik, who's been powerful and has 3 lines and 5 minutes of screen time, but that's a byproduct of games. But for the most part, I think FFG has done a good job of bringing the big, exciting characters to the front as far as design goes.
Well, one of the best things about we're you and I have been touching again on the Star Wars CCG. One of the best things about that was all of the minor characters that had 2 seconds of screen time.
Yeah,
That was
yeah,
that was one of the coolest things about that. So that is a thing I like about Star Wars games, where it's like, oh, who the hell is this guy? Where did he come from? Oh, it's a really good card. Sometimes it's good to have, um, the unknown stars be stars in the card game beyond just the the main characters that you're going to see with three, four, five iterations. I mean, we've almost at this point we have like a Luke or a Darth Vader every set.
I agree. I'm 100% on board with that. My point was more toward like for the masses on the outside looking in. You know, if Bala is your poster child for the game, that's not necessarily a good thing because he's not recognizable. It's more like, oh, that's a cool looking Vader card. Like that's gonna get people to play the game. That's gonna get people that left the game to come back to the game. That was a great piece of, I guess, PR essentially by releasing that article. But let's stop teasing everybody. Let's just start getting in to some of the big spoilery news. We there's just way too much for us to cover in one podcast. I mean, I'm sure that if I gave Scott complete autonomy, he could ramble on and talk about every single one of these cards and probably tell you more than you would need to know about each one. We're just going to comb through them and pick out a couple standouts, and then we're going to move on to a couple other topics that we wanted to talk about. We're going to bring back one of Jack's favorite segments, our what do we want to pull out of our first box. Hint: Vader related cards are going to be at the top of our lists.
Vader, 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 because he spits out fire.
But let's go through some spoilers. Scott, do you want to go first, or do you want me to take the first one?
I mean, we're just going off like something that struck our eye, huh?
Yeah, anything that you think is relevant, powerful, will see play, people should be
All
aware
right, all
of.
right. Let's
Anything that covers that. Do you want me to jump in, or you got one?
moving on, the first thing that kind of like jumps out, just because it is a negative point plot, and that's one of the big new things in the set. Bitter Rivalry. It is a negative one cost plot. After setup, choose an opponent. That opponent deals two unblockable damage to one of your characters and draws a card. It's negative 1 points, and it is blue. So this is the type of thing that opens up a lot of different team building options. You know, you're basically any blue deck, which is every deck apparently, can take the spot. Negative 1 points, so you can run a 31-point squad. You are starting off. You're basically getting -2 health, and your opponent is getting another card. I think that's a pretty good trade-off, to be perfectly honest. This isn't something that could be gray because then you're just too many things. Um, am I necessarily happy about it being blue? Yeah, but 2 health and giving your opponent a card seems like a viable enough trade out to now field a 31-point squad when we are talking and have seen characters take a balance of the force hit of 1 point. So you're bringing back some. You could bring back, you know, Ayla in that 5 die vehicle start. That could be that could be a deck again, but you're starting with 2 less health and your opponent gets a card.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be some interesting combinations. The one that scares me would be the if you bring the new Vader, a Terror to Behold, along with the rivalry card, and then you can bring either Sienna or Newt Gunray, so that you're going to gain access to leadership for him, which just terrifies me. But
So you mean you're gonna bring Sienna?
yeah, you're going to bring Sienna, unless I guess
Okay.
trilogies wouldn't apply anyway. So yeah, you're going to bring Sienna there, and you're going to get some extra resources along the way. But yeah, that I just don't want to see Vader ready that many. You already have Price of Failure. I think that's plenty and that's fine. But to have the potential to leadership and Price of Failure in the same turn, that is a blowout.
You know what? I'm not too like, it's got some nerve wracking aspects to it, but you're basically getting two free damage to Vader. And if Vader is using that many events to activate himself and presumably playing some cards and re-rolling some cards, all of a sudden you might actually be able to mitigate his dice.
For sure. Yeah, he's going to need to find a way to replenish his hand. They're definitely going to want to cycle their deck, and that is the one thing that we've been talking about a lot is potentially just disrupting Vader's hand. There's a lot of other things that you can do, such as turn his dice to force him to re-roll them as opposed to removing them. But just basically his hand economy is the thing that you might be able to slow him down with the most. Also, if you can keep his resources under control, he's that 4 for 1 side is a second blank. So there are ways to
Yeah,
work around him. But
yeah.
I'll take the next card. I'm going to take Laser Cannon.
Can I say can I say one more
Oh
thing
yeah,
before
yeah.
you go into laser cannon?
Please.
This card, like most of the cards in the set, really, really nice art.
That's you couldn't be.
Like
Yeah.
every the FFG article, the fly casual one, I opened it up and like that BB-8 looks amazing.
Hmm.
There are some duds, like there are some like
He's always good.
what's her face, Kira. There's some duds. But for the most part, like just scrolling through our Destiny spoiler discard chat, I'm like, oh man, some of these things, especially some where I want to see them in person because I think there's detail that you're kind of missing. They all look pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I especially liked when Mr. Chip was in here changing the names
Oh
of
my God,
like
that was
Palpatine to shoulder pads, or
I
behind me, in
I
me for questioned loyalty. It was great.
you know me, I'm a bit of like a tournament stickler and whatnot. I do not like I don't like the fan made alt arts being used in tournaments at all, just because it has the capacity to be confusing to some people. I really don't like it in the draw deck because then you've got the capacity for it being a marked card.
Hmm.
But I would really, really enjoy if someone were to start making some of those cards.
It was hilarious. I loved it.
All right, laser cannon, go.
All right, laser cannon. It's a one cost gray card. It's a common neutral. Um, it's an upgrade weapon mod. Its game text is mod vehicle support. After you activate attached support, you may deal one indirect damage to an opponent. If there's one thing we know is good, and one thing that we know I at least like, it's guaranteed damage. Yes, you need a vehicle in play to put this on, and yes, that vehicle can be discarded. They've added a lot of new ways to suppress vehicles or supports in general, but this is a one cost upgrade that just guarantees to give you one damage every activation of that support for the rest of the game. And that just, I mean, you pay one. If you activate that support 3 times, you get 3 damage. One for three is I think the range that you want to be in for value on a card like this.
Yeah, I mean, I have to agree. If you were going to take any support ever and say, all right, well, we're going to add the game text to it after it activates, deal a damage, you'd say, yeah, that's worth well, one more resource cost.
Hmm.
And this is even better because you don't have to pay it up front. You play you can play the vehicle and then later play this on it.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I think it's reminiscent of Climate Disruption Array. Of course, you're not dealing damage to yourself, but it's just a no brainer to me. It's not super exciting. It's not super flashy, but I think it's something that we're going to see. You got another one for us, Scott?
I do. It's actually the cough came through. I couldn't stop it. All right, so tuberculosis, I'm dying. It's been nice knowing everybody. I've got a touch of the consumption, the black lung pop. So I'm going with another plot. I guess maybe I just am stuck on the plots that are with this set, and this kind of goes into what Tommy was just talking about. Especially with all the mods that are in this set. We have armed reinforcement. It is a red plot, cost 3, so this one's a little pricey. Action: set aside this plot to search your deck and or discard pile for a vehicle support and play it, decreasing its cost by 1. If you search your deck, shuffle it, boilerplate stuff there. This is, we don't have many tutors in this game. We really have very, very few. It's kind of a thing that I know that they wanted to, or at least Lucas, when he first designed the game, that was one of the things. Is like, I don't want to have you searching your 30 card deck all the time. This isn't, Pokemon where you need 60 cards, so you need 50 search cards just to find anything. But this is an interesting one. It's bringing it out of a deck or discard pile, which is great because obviously you might want to wait a little bit to pop this plot, and your vehicle could be in the discard pile, and you're getting -1 resource cost for it. It's a tough sell at 3 points. You have to really think about the squad that you're bringing along with this, but there are a number of vehicles and there are a number of support cards with all these mods and a lot of the events that deal with, do X with the support and, get bonus because of the mods and whatnot, that you could think about building a deck that's basically going to revolve around, say, the Falcon or what is it, the Shadowcaster?
Yeah,
Yeah, the
Shadowcaster.
Shadowcaster, or something like that, where you're like, hey, I'm gonna revolve my deck strategy around utilizing this card. And normally that's hard to do because you can't guarantee you're going to draw it. You can guarantee you're going to draw it, and you can guarantee that it's not going to cost you as much.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at this card and I actually almost had this on my list as well. I just put a quick list together. But I really find this plot intriguing. I mean, it's profitable connections with a tutor, so I mean, it's limited to red. Um, but I really like it.
Yeah, I guess looking at it as profitable connections with a tutor, that actually makes it. I'm like biting my lip. I'm kind of cringing over the three costs, but I'm like, yeah, people run profitable correct connections.
Yeah, no, it's absolutely viable. I think there will be a deck for it somewhere. I mean, even just to start off, like if you can grab a turn one X-wing or something like that,
Yeah,
uh, or a Tie Fighter to start that chain effect. I mean, you could really start ramping some vehicles out, and you know if you're able to somehow put two X-wings down on turn one, you're in pretty good shape.
yeah. If
Uh,
you can, if you can get three of those things out, then it starts to get real nutty.
yeah, and this is a way to guarantee that you're getting one for one resource
Hmm.
essentially, and that's I mean you can't start much better than a discounted X-wing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and with the TIE fighter, it could start off that entire chain. Like you could just, oh, I'm going to stack up resources and then start the chain reaction.
Yeah, you could absolutely. I could see spitting three Tie Fighters out in a turn with that card, no problem. If you're built to ramp.
It's five resources. That's not even like built the ramp. That's a Tuesday.
All right, I'm gonna take another one, Scott, and I'm gonna go in a similar vein to the laser cannon. I'm gonna take Systems Gauge. It's another one cost gray neutral card. This one's uncommon. It's a mod vehicle support. Um, it after you activate attach support, you may spend one resource to remove a die showing damage. So again, it's just going to sit on the table. It's going to be on a support. Yes, it could potentially get discarded, but you get the advantage of its removal on demand. Yes, you have to pay a resource every time, but it's removal on demand. You could remove two or three dice with this card over the course of a game, and it just seems good to me. I mean, it might not be great if all we're playing against is Vader, but you could still remove his upgrade dice or maybe a certain support such as Vader's fist that is going to be in the pool quite often. So I think that this will see play. I think it's good. As far as mods go, I like the ones that are the lowest cost possible, and I kind of like the guaranteed aspect of these two mods.
Yeah, I guess you kind of thought you had a theme to what was going on, but yeah, it's like you said, you're putting something on the board that's going to be removal turn after turn. Yes, you are putting that one cost investment ahead of time, and then you're paying one each time. So you have to see it a little early, use it a few times for it to be efficient.
For
But
sure.
you can, if you're putting it on a vehicle that gains a bonus from mods, that one isn't a big deal.
No, it's not. It's more of an option. It's a luxury card. It's not something you have to have in the deck. But if you've got a decent economy where you plan on having a resource around, and in the late game, quite often you have resources around. So that's when it'd be nice to have it out early. But the late game is probably when you're going to continuously use it, you know, round after round. In my imagination, at least.
Yeah, that's, I mean, especially if you can think of like a control deck or a control style deck where you're going to extend the rounds a little bit further than some of the decks we've been seeing lately.
Sure. Do you have another one, or are you dying and you want me to do another
I
one?
am in fact dying, but I have another one just because I have no idea what this card is supposed to do. And that's evacuate. I have to go with this one. Like what is this? What is it? What is evacuate? Who is evacuate? Why is evacuate? I don't know. Evacuate is a four cost hero card, red. It's got Admiral Akbar sending some rebel troopers running. Defeat one of your non unique characters. So defeat one of your non unique characters. And with other cards, we've had cards that defeat your own characters, and then there's usually like a big effect that goes along with it, like ready another character, exhaust one of their characters, something. there's usually
Okay.
something. This one
So
reads
I think I know what this does, but go ahead.
defeat one of your unique characters. After the action phase ends, return that character to play. Cost 4, by the way. I
It's uncommon as
And
well.
it is
For
uncommon.
Chip, Mr. Chip, it's a yellow card.
Maybe I'm just missing the point. Could you tell me? But I don't know
I,
what this does.
I can't say that this is a card that I'm going to often include in my decks, but what I think it's for is, let's say you have a clone trooper and Vader rolls out, he hits a 4 for 1 and a 3, and you say, I don't have suppressive fire on the table or whatever, so looks like I'm eating 7, and he puts 7 into a clone. You play evacuate, you take the clone off the table. End of the round, the clone comes back at full health. You healed 7 damage.
Okay. I, I
It doesn't say anything about putting damage back on him. So
no,
if
it
he's
doesn't.
defeated, his damage
Yeah,
goes
it's
away. So
defeated.
when
They
you return that character to play, he's at full health.
Yeah, that's definitely what the card does, but it's just like a that's a weird thing.
It's definitely odd. Obviously, it's probably better with non-unique characters that have a high health pool.
Yeah. So
Maybe like Jedi Sentinels or something like that for 10. I'm just trying to think of what hero
Rebel
ones
Commando
have.
has 10.
Yeah, Rebel Commando, Wookiee Warrior. There's a handful that are beefy. But I don't know. For resources, I mean, you would probably want to play. You'd probably be needing to play this in at least a 3 wide deck, and you're probably going to want to play it somewhat early in the game because if you have a couple dinged up characters and like only 2 left
You
to
could
defeat one,
lose.
yeah, that's a little risky. I mean, you might be helping your opponent do some of their work. So this is definitely an odd one, and it's an interesting take on your selection, Scott.
I was like reading it. I'm like, I get what they're going to try to do with this. Like, oh, it's like Rise Again, or what's it called? What's the red one that brings a character back?
Uh, Endless ranks.
Yeah, I'd rather let the character get all the way defeated and then pay one more to bring the thing back.
Yeah, well, that's a villain card. This is a hero card, so
Is that how
they
this
have an
is?
affinity for villains.
All right, you go ahead. I'll find a card that's, not.
You want to do one more
Yeah,
each?
sure.
All right. I'm gonna take uh, Savage Press. All right. Just because I'm just looking at this card and it's crazy. So he is a reckless warrior. He's 11 points for 1 die, 14 for elite. He is a rare villain, blue with 13 health. Yes, the point cost was 1114. He has
Yeah,
13
we
health. His die sides are 1 melee, 3 melee with a cost of 1 resource, a +2 melee, and a discard side. His game text is character Knight Brother. You must activate this character as your first action each round if able, unless you spot Maul. So, I mean, if I was going to say something bad about this character, it would be that he doesn't have a resource side and that you have to roll him out immediately unless you're playing Maul. But other than that, this thing is a monster.
yeah, I mean, that's a lot of health.
That's a ton of health. That's a ton of damage sides. That's intimidating artwork. I'm just like, Grievous who?
Oh no, Grievous is terrible.
I know, but like, how do you have a like? There's one thing to be like overcosted, and then there's another thing to see a version of that character be essentially be printed 6 points cheaper. Yeah, he doesn't have restrictions. He doesn't have a paid side or restrictions for playing upgrades on him. He doesn't have that paid side, but holy crap, this thing is a monster. I think it will see play.
Yeah, I think it will see play. I will say this that it's hard to quantify the whole like having to activate him first thing.
It is.
That could be really problematic. Again, it's always we've talked about it before. It's a little hard when without resource sides. Like, all right, what does that mean? And then he does have 2/1 melee sides, and that's they're melee sides, so they're good. They're damage sides. but at a 14, like if you're taking him elite 14 cost character, um, it's you're going to take you're going to take that one damage anytime you see it, but you may need to get more out of your deck. I mean, more out of your dice than just one damage at that point cost a lot of times.
For sure, but I mean, it's nice because he has a +2 modifier, and you've got three
Hmm.
black sides that you can pair that with. So it really
Yeah,
gives you that good value. I mean, his dice work together better than most. I think just because of that +2 modifier, and then still a 50% chance to pair just on him alone. I think he's very good with modified dice, maybe an Electro Staff, a Maul Saber, a Vader Saber, an
I
Ancient,
think you just I
and even
think you just
Crafted.
run them at one point, one die.
You could absolutely run him at one die,
You
and
just
then
cheap buy the 13
yeah,
health.
definitely. And then you can, with him activating first, it gives you an excuse to play the card Crafted Lightsaber, which has pretty amazing sides, but an odd, play requirement. I don't know. Maybe you would play that.
I
Maybe you wouldn't.
eh,
I don't know.
I, I, I still think you're getting hit with the general issue that is that card. You're like, it's not worth the resources if I don't get to use it that
Yeah, you
round.
definitely are missing it for a round, which is unfortunate.
Now, he point wise fits with his brother and he's got that spot action, but looking at his die facings, does he pair well with Maul considering that he doesn't generate any resources and both of them have paid sides?
Yeah, that is where um I don't care for this card. I don't think he fits perfectly with Maul in a competitive vacuum. I just don't think you're going to have the economy to really be able to play upgrades and efficiently deal damage throughout the course of the game. If there was
I
another
think,
card like Enrage for
yeah,
Villain Blue, and you could run like 4 resource generating cards, uh, maybe. But he doesn't even have a resource on his die, so
yeah.
it's a tall task.
It's tough when you have. I mean, I can't remember ever running a pairing that had both characters with paid sides. That's tough to begin with, especially when one can't generate resources.
Yeah, yeah, that's tough. I mean, you could maybe compensate with a battlefield, like the new one,
Yeah.
the Theed Palace one, or
Mhm.
the Outer Rim Outpost or something. If you were confident that you were going to outpace your opponent,
I I
just use
think that
War
I
Room.
think that deck would have pretty good pacing because you assume you might have four speeds, and then otherwise you're just resolving melee dice.
Yeah, yeah, you know what you're resolving for sure.
Like you are not messing around.
No, I mean, I'm interested to see how he's used. I'm not sure. I don't have that vision yet. I'm just looking at the raw stats that are jumping off
Yeah,
the card.
the big raw stats, especially when you look at like 11 cost for 13 health.
Hmm.
It's like, all right, sweet. I don't care what his die is. I'll just put things on him. He's got 13 health.
Exactly. All right. So, Scott, you got one more for us?
All right, one more. I'm scrolling down to find it. I had it and then I lost it.
Plot?
Nah, it's not a. I don't. Are there other plots? Nah,
Yeah, you
because
can do that gray
Tommy,
one.
Tommy, what card in this set? Like just having looked at the art, what card in this set would I be super excited about? Just art based.
Just art based. There's no pro wrestlers on any of these. So,
Oh, but apparently there is Incineroar in Smash Brothers,
yeah,
and he's got all pro
that's true.
wrestling rules, so I'm pretty excited about that.
I have heard that.
Yeah.
As far as art goes, what one would you be excited about? Is there a Wedge Antilles in here?
Oh, there's a Wedge Antilles in here, and not just any Wedge Antilles.
Is it Aerial Advantage?
Aerial Advantage. It's also
Dude, nailed it.
yeah, it's also just a card.
Shane loves this card. This card's
I
awesome.
think I think it's one I like that I like the Captain Rex archetype with vehicles. I know your brother keeps trying to make upgrades a thing, but that Captain Rex with the better red vehicles is probably the better version of that, and this fits in perfectly with that. So aerial advantage is a red hero card, one cost, play only if you control the battlefield. So it's in the vein of a dug in or a defensive position, number of cards that we've seen like that. So obviously Rex fits in well with that, or even the previewed Commander Cody, because they have the ability to get you the battlefield even if you don't claim. And that's obviously very important if you're running supports because you are slow. Spot a red character, you're going to probably do that anyway, to turn a die to any side. Okay, one cost for that effect. That's terrible. But there's more. There's more words. There's a lot more words. You may spot a vehicle to remove a die. All right, so this is starting to turn into like beguile. It's like a it's pseudo beguile. Oh, there's more things. It basically is beguile. You may spot a mod to turn a die to any side or remove a die. This thing does three different effects. If you've got a vehicle, you need a red character, a vehicle, and a mod. None of which is all that difficult. Like you can definitely get red character and vehicle real easy. Mod is like the added icing on the cake. But this is a one cost. This is like a one cost super beguile. Beguile
Yeah,
doesn't do
this thing
much.
is insane. I mean, you can all in one shot if you meet all the spot requirements. You can blank both of Vader's dice and remove his saber.
Yeah, you could do that, or if you're playing against not Vader, you could just remove two of their die and turn one of your die up to the biggest number you can find.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, it's just like this,
Yeah,
like that's just the context of where everybody's head's at right now, I think, is everybody's like, oh man, Vader's gigantic. What are we going to do? He's going to be popular. But like this is a great control card. It's versatile. It hits up to three dice if you get these spot requirements, which like you referenced are not going to be difficult to do. I mean, you're going to play one vehicle, and then you could put a laser cannon on it, and you're set.
like beyond, you know, assuming you're playing something that getting the battlefield is arbitrary for you. You don't care. You can do it very easily. Let's just say like a Rex deck. Let's say a Rex deck.
It's a perfect example.
You do it, and you're just like, I have it every turn. I don't care. I'll play all of the cards that say control this battlefield. All right, so this card is bad if you just have a red character out. It's just pay one for a focus. It's not the worst thing. Like there's
No, I mean
you play like
it's definitely still got some value.
yeah, there's
It's not something you would do optimally, but it's definitely an option
yeah,
still. It's not a dead card. It's not a discard the
no.
reroll card. It's got some use.
There's that blue card that some people play in action cheating decks where it's just turn a die and then spend another resource to turn a die. I
Yeah,
can't remember the name of
concentrate.
it. Yeah, concentrate. So yeah, just the one effect it isn't bad, but then you get to the second effect. All right, so you're turning a die and you're removing a die, and then you get to a third effect, so you can have the ability to remove two dice and turn one, and that could be defensively or offensively the turn, or you can remove one die and turn two. Again, offensively or defensively, odds are if you're removing only one and turning two, it's offensively speaking. But that's those are big swings. Those are real big swings. Um, I just think it's a great card, beautiful art, just the best art ever made ever.
All right, I think that's slightly overstating it. I know you are in love with Wedge, but
No,
the art
it's
is
majestic. Look at him. Look
mediocre at best. I'm
majestic.
looking. All right.
Majestic.
Moving on before Scott goes on a 45-minute tirade about how majestic this is and why it would be advantageous for Ray to add him to his podcast. Scott and I are going to go through a little exercise where we uh, anticipate our boxes that we're going to open. So we're going to fast forward in our minds a week from now, and we're going to talk about the six legendaries that we want to pull from our first Across the Galaxies box. And we're going to alternate. But to speed this up a little bit, I'm just going to go ahead and say, Scott, you want the Vader package as much as I want the Vader package, I'm assuming. I want it solely to test
I
against, but
don't
do you
I don't
want.
have any I don't really have a real urge to play Vader. Maybe I'll play Vader, but I know that he's going to be the most expensive card in the set.
So,
So
yes, you want
I
Vader,
want him
Vader's
either
fifth,
to
his three.
yeah, I want him either to have him just so that I can play him without spending more money because I'd rather pull him in the box that I'm going to buy anyway, or I want him just to sell.
Okay, so we're actually going to pick three legendaries because we're going to say that Vader's Fist, which is actually the number one card I want, Vader and Vader's Saber are our top three.
Yeah, the
So we're just going to pick three after that. And this is where it'll get interesting because I'm sure we're going to differ
wait,
in some
I'm
areas.
raising my hand. I got to say something. It's
Go
probably
for
a
it.
little dumb that the three most expensive cards are all the same color, same faction.
Agreed. And they all are Vader themed
Like
cards. I mean
that's
Vader's
going to be
Fist has plenty of use
how,
outside of Vader
how expensive is
and
that
is
deck
maybe
going to
the
be?
best support ever. It's going to be
That
pricey.
deck's going to be like that deck trilogy is not so bad. That deck standard, oy.
Yeah, it's going to be
Yeah,
expensive.
sorry,
But
new
it'll be
players coming
fun.
back to the game because you saw a cool Vader.
Yeah, right. Well, that's secondary market. They can't control that. I guess they could. They could design
Yeah.
differently. But anyway, I'll go first, and I'm going to take a Shadowcaster with my fourth spot.
All right, Shadowcaster, huh?
I like Shadowcaster. I'm digging vehicles still. I liked it. I want to put two laser cannons on a Shadowcaster, and then I'll be able to resolve its pay sides for two less. That's what I want to do.
I could see that. I could see the trend happening in the cards that you picked prior. I was like
Yep,
Shadowcaster,
that would you
definitely.
wouldn't have to be a genius to figure out that I like
Yeah,
Shadowcaster.
that's definitely making sense there. I'm gonna go with something a little. I'm gonna I'm especially when we're talking about like legendaries in that first box. I want versatile legendaries. I want legendaries that I can just put in anything, and then we'll figure out what where the actual chips fall. And that's going to be the BFG, the handheld LSI cannon. What would they say hello to my little friend? Was that the chip card?
Yeah,
It's the
yes, it
BFG from
was.
Doom. Um, this thing is just a gigantic, just a huge thing. Leia wielding it. I don't remember. I guess she's on Hoth with that. I guess she like pulled it out to shoot down some snowtroopers.
She's got a little spark. It's in that scene in Empire Strikes Back when Vader and Bazine team
Yep,
up.
that seemed all right. That makes sense. This card, it's a two cost upgrade with four damage sides, three of which have a three value. Like, all right, yeah, I want that legendary because if I'm playing, even if I'm playing red hero vehicles, I might still put that card in because again, it's like the DH-17. It's just efficient.
100%. I had that same exact conversation with my brother earlier today. If you're running vehicles, then the downside of this
What
upgrade,
downside?
you don't care about. The attached characters upgrade limit is decreased
Yeah,
by
no,
one. There's zero
no.
downside if you're running a vehicle deck. This just automatically goes into whatever character's not being targeted by your opponent if they're running direct damage. It's amazing. It's the next card on my list. So
I'm gonna try.
Scott,
I'm
back
trying
to
to do that. That was purposeful.
you. Okay. You got
No,
another one then? Because
you
I only
gotta
got
no. You have to call an audible.
Oh, I have to call. Oh, well, my audible would
All
be
right, go ahead,
Lando.
man. Yeah, that's
Lando's a beast. He's got a great power action. We've seen the Shadowcaster, so again, you can. I'm pretty predictable here. Lando's power action with the Shadowcaster, so you can drop that sucker in for one cheaper. Um, I think Lando. Anything that offers that kind of economy where it's got the built-in power action, he's got a 4 for 2. He's going to be a monster in the roll-off. You're going to get your battlefield, or you're going to get shields depending on your preference. I just think that he's gonna see play as well. I like vehicles. Like 50% of our Discord is ready to quit if vehicles become good, but I like
yeah.
vehicles.
I mean, that's. I think that's. Is that a commonality between all of us not named Jack?
Yeah, I mean I like sticks a lot too, so I have no problem. You know, I
Hmm.
prefer to go three wide, um, but I have no problem lining up with some heirlooms or redeploys or some spicy price of failures. I like all that, so yeah, I have no problem doing
Yeah,
that.
you're a little less. You're not too super like particular.
No, I'll play whatever. I'm not too picky. I mean, I like to
Hmm.
play characters I like, and I do like thematic builds, but I'm not tied to them.
Yeah, your brother is the exact opposite.
My brother just wants to play
Your
something that no
brother
one
will try to
expects.
shoehorn anything into something if that's what he wants to do.
Yep.
He is the toddler at the daycare that can't figure out that like shapes and blocks thing.
Wow. He's a
No,
toddler
yeah,
who's going to be a
he's a smart cookie. I mean, he can't do shapes. Or
or
competitive
competitive events.
events or anything. He doesn't show up to anything. Is he going to show up to his own wedding?
I don't know. I know a
Yeah,
lady
she'll.
that might
Oh,
kill him if he
your
doesn't.
mom, your mom. I wouldn't even. No,
Well,
Liz
I
isn't
have
even
multiple.
first on that. It's his mom. I feel like Nicole would get in on that too. Your wife.
uh,
I feel like she would. Yeah,
she might. She might
yeah.
throw a stab.
She'll sick the baby on him.
So
Is
what's your
Han a
fifth
legendary?
legendary, Scott?
Yeah, we're gonna go
Han
with
is
Han. He's a
legendary,
neutral
yes.
again. I'm going versatility with my first box. I just want things that can fit into all the blocks into the same. That's I'm going versatility here. So Han, just because he's a neutral character, he seems like he's going to fit in a number of places. I definitely think he's got build with hatchet face Kira over there, but. Dude, no, that's
That's
so you've seen you've seen the musical Crybaby, right? All right.
no, I have not, Scott. I have not. And if I had, I wouldn't admit it on a podcast.
Oh no, everybody loves the musical Crybaby. Like anybody listening, if you haven't seen Crybaby, go watch Crybaby. It's John Waters. It's actually got Tracy Lords in it. It was like her first non adult film type thing, but it's also got Johnny Depp in it. And it's awesome. It's even got Iggy Pop. He plays like a deranged father,
Okay, all
but there's a
right.
character in it
Axe face.
named Hatchet Face.
That.
Hatchet Face, not Axe Face.
Okay.
Hatchet Face. And she's got a little bit of a problem going on. But it's awesome. Tommy, you should watch it. I feel like your wife might like it. She probably has seen it.
I promise you I won't bring it up.
Or you got to watch that, and then you got to watch Glow. All of our listeners, you have to watch Glow. It's fantastic.
Okay. Nice pick, Scott.
Han, Han.
Han. All right, I'm going to throw you a curveball, and I'm going to do this one not just for my brother, but also because it
No, don't you
intrigues
do
me.
it.
I'm
Don't,
going to
don't.
throw Tobias Beckett at you.
All right, that's fine. You can throw that all you want.
Yeah, now Tobias Beckett looks interesting. I don't know if it's him and Val or what yet. I don't have it figured out. I know Shane's really going to be working on it, so I'm just going to hand it to Shane. But I might sneak in and bandwagon onto that because I don't know if we've ever seen an economy disruption force like this. I mean, it's I take your money and I hurt you bad. I mean, there is some serious synergy with those characters. There is his power action's awesome. You have complete control over how to time it. Obviously, if your skill level and your familiarity with the deck and your opponent's deck is at a high enough level, you're really going to be able to capitalize on this card. Um, it's just a really interesting card to me. It's going to give you the flexibility to play a lot of different events that you might not normally be able to play. And also, I'm thinking again with Vader. Vader's going to be a build that's going to want some money. You can almost turn his four side into a blank again during different points in the game if you're smart with the way you disrupt them. And also the Han Kira deck that has been getting some traction, or
Hatchet Face. Her name isn't Kira. It's Hatchet Face.
Han deck that's been getting some hype is going to be using a lot of potentially like three hyperspace jumps. There may be or two hyperspace jumps rather, and there also is that new plot which would allow you to run potentially three hyperspace jumps, two retreats. This is going to give you um, some protection against decks that want to play high costed cards. You're really going to be able to disrupt them. I don't think it's a deck that's going to be played a lot. So I think there's going to be a lot of people that are off balance when they sit down across from this. They're not going to know how to manage the resources properly and what tricks you have.
Yeah, he definitely looks like a really strong character. I forgot that he was a legendary, but
Hmm.
um, that's a good legendary. That's definitely in like the it's Yellow Villain too, but like the DJ level of legendaries where you're like, all right, this isn't going to be the most expensive card in the set, but this is a good card. Like you're going
Yeah,
to be
it's
able to build a deck around it. And this one especially, this is more built. Well, I guess DJ's build a deck around it since it's all mitigation, but
yeah,
this is another one. It's a specialized type of card that goes in a specialized type of deck.
it is. I don't have versatility in my picks. I know what I want, so that's what I'm going with.
Oh,
This one's for my brother, but I'm
I'm
interested.
chucking versatility out the window with the last one.
All right, hit me with it.
I thought you were going to steal this because this seems like a Shane card or like a you on like a weird day card. BB-8. I want one BB-8. I don't want like two of these things, but I
Yeah,
want
not
one
my first
BB-8.
box.
Um, yeah. I want it's. I like cards like this that all right, you play them and then later you can turn them, get double duty out of them. We've seen that with the Escape Pod. We've seen that with Vader's Fist. Obviously, Vader's Fist is in like the extreme where it's just fisting you. But BB-8, that's again, you play it, then you get the vehicle that you want on it. Boom, you pop the droid in, and you get double usage out of it. Again, if you're playing it on Black One, and you should be playing it on the new Black One, not the old Black One that's so comically overcosted compared to this one that it's annoying. But that's you're going to be able to get a lot of value out of that little package. And I don't mean like BB-8 little package. I mean that like little grouping of cards where it's like, all right, you get a BB-8 resolve, and then you get to roll. You get black one and BB-8, and then you get BB-8 and black one together, and then maybe you're using that special on black one multiple times, and that's a lot just for like three costs. And then it's super thematic because if you throw Poe in there, then all of a sudden you're getting to switch a die to what you want. And that's just a cool little thing. And it's very much in the vein of, and I think we had this conversation, like, I don't know, you and I driving in the car at some point, how I want to see them make every one of Wedge's vehicles with like some ability that, like, all right, spot Wedge Antilles X, Y, and Z. Black One and BB-8 are kind of in that vein, so maybe I'm not completely crazy.
No, it's a similar thing. It's not revolving around the character that you would like it to, and I think you're insane for including it in your top six or six that you want to pull in your first box. But that you're entitled to your opinion too, even if it is wrong.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, wrong. Yeah.
All right, so moving on, we're going to talk real quick and briefly. We had a couple requests from our Discord. We just want to talk about a couple decks that we think we expect to see early in the meta, and it's been a common phrase, but early metas are typically dominated by aggro, especially in this situation when you have a character like Vader released who is exactly that. He's aggro. We even talked about it on Jackalman Games about how Vader. One form of Vader's mitigation is literally just to take your character dice off the table one at a time. So he's just going to be cutting people down. I don't think anybody expected us not to mention Vader. But in addition to that, decks that I think we might see would be Han Kira. I think it's going to bring uh, a unique deck list to the table, and it's going to keep people uneasy, off balance. You're not going to be sure uh, what kind of cards you're going to be seeing coming out of it. I mean, it's a no brainer what cards are powerful from each faction or from hero or villain faction from that standpoint. But it's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of different spins on that. What do you think about that deck, Scott?
I mean, yeah, that one's it's significantly harder to get your head around as far as like what it's going to be compared to the Vader deck. I mean, I feel like with the exception of cards that we haven't seen yet that might be serve as like your mitigation cards and whatnot, the Vader deck you can probably pretty much build it already. For the most part.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not building it in the sense you don't know what you're going to be playing against. That's the
you
the
might have
issue.
stifle.
Yeah, that's the issue with the Vader deck right now. You might be able to build it, but you don't really know what you need. You're building it in this meta or in the meta that we're aware of, and then thinking that's going to, trend moving forward. But it's the Kira and Han deck definitely provides a lot more unknown factors to it as far as what's going to go into it, and I think that is a deck that people can take in different directions.
For
I
sure,
don't know if
for
that's
sure.
necessarily true of Vader. Maybe it is. Maybe it's like a ability heavy Vader, and you're just like, all right, well, I'll just get the value out of his character dice just because they are what they are. I don't need to support them any.
So the Vader deck to me, I see two versions coming to the forefront, and I guess the one could be trilogy or standard, and the other would be standard exclusively, and that would be
Holocron versus not holocron.
no. I was more going along the lines of you would take the Vader and you would use that Theed Palace to get the power action of gaining a resource, potentially take a Jawa if you're using that, so you get the extra action, or you could take um, a battle droid and you would take the one cost plot that would allow you to deal a damage every time someone removes your die.
Hmm.
I think you might see that, or you might see the Vader and a Greedo, which is, I guess, a third archetype because I wasn't counting that initially. Or you could see the Vader with rivalry and a unique red character so that you gain access to leadership in addition to price of failure, like we referenced
Hmm.
earlier. I think those are, it depends. Do you want the red villain package? Do you want the yellow villain package? Or are you satisfied with, mono blue and that battlefield. I think those are the three that are kind of being discussed at the moment.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. And then my thinking was more along the upgrade package. Like, are you gonna like, is it
Yeah,
holocron or not holocron?
yeah. I'm not sure. I think the majority of decks are going to go. Well, the red deck that would want to continuously uh, be readying Vader, I think would lean melee, like sticks
Hmm.
upgrades. Whether I don't know what upgrades exactly. I'm sure you're using Vader's lightsaber. Maybe you're using Mauls. You're probably using Ancients. Again, it all varies if you're going trilogies or
Probably using ancients.
yeah, they're using Ancients.
Hmm.
They're all going to use Force Illusion unless it's trilogy.
Yep.
Um, but it's yeah, I think you're going to see more melee oriented decks. Although I wouldn't be surprised if a Holocron variant popped up and did well
There's
because Holocron is
Yeah,
solid.
holocron's solid, and there are we've even gotten some more. We got the discount double check ability. I don't actually I don't know the real name now because of the chip card.
Yeah,
But
that's great.
it's a good one. Like, it's got three sides that can deal damage plus one that can kind of muck up people. So there are a lot of good blue abilities, and that's a card that that Yoda Luke deck you were playing. Up there, all of a sudden, oh, we got a new ability. Discount double check.
Yeah, the discount double
Yep.
check.
Um,
It's
what is it?
I'm looking at Chip's
No,
Chip's
what's what's
card. He does such a good job with the font
what's
on
the actual
these.
name of the
It's
card? Is it,
I
is it
just had
like
it up. I'll have to
force?
force
Yeah,
something.
come on.
I don't know.
Oh wait, I found it. Force lift.
Force lift. It's kind of a
A little
lame
bit.
name. Yeah.
Like,
Oh
you
well.
know, they're just run out has names for generic force powers.
So let's skip to another deck. I think another deck that's using some new tricks and characters would be Jin Cassian, the new Jin, the red
Yeah,
one,
with that blaster.
that really manipulates the top of your
Hmm.
deck. And her blaster's really awesome as well. I think that that's going to be another aggro option. I think you're going to see people playing this. People that don't necessarily like villain blue or they prefer the guns or prefer hero, but still want to play an aggro shoot 'em up
If you
style.
were playing Finn Cassian last set, you're gonna love this deck because she's better than
Yeah,
Finn.
yeah, she's good. She is another character that doesn't have a resource side, but it's interesting that these two characters are going to or have the potential in Cassian's case he can do one of two things, but they can manipulate your deck in a way that I don't think we've seen a lot
They
of decks do before because I think this deck is going to want to win by killing your characters, but it's also going to limit what you can do by hand picking cards that you're going to see on subsequent turns and removing the cards that are most dangerous to
Yeah,
them.
it's like I said, if you like FinCast and you're gonna like this deck, but the plus side of this deck is that because it has some manipulation ability, because it can kind of mess with your opponent, it's significantly more survivable than the FinCassian pairing. You're going to be able to
For
keep
sure.
yourself on the board, and that's the biggest problem with that, like, too wide shoot 'em up style deck. It's like, oh, did you hit enough upgrades? Did you hit your hit and runs? Did you hit your um, quick draws, whatever you want to use to try and cheat damage out? Because if you don't, you're probably losing because you're not very resilient. And
Yep.
but the ability to mess with your opponent's hand, to mess with your opponent's deck and see what's coming, that can help your resiliency a lot. And then Jin with her gun is probably overall a better damage dealer.
So, going on, I have only one other thing listed, and it's really vague. It's just that there's going to be a ton of vehicle decks. I don't know all the pairings, both hero.
I've got one more. I've got my one contribution here was probably more specific than that, but it's still kind of vague. It's Tie Fighters.
Oh yeah, Tie Fighters are sick. Tie Fighters
It's
are the one is one of the decks that I'm going to list that I want to play. But go ahead.
so there's beyond the Tie Fighters and how you want to get to them, and one of the ones would probably be like a Thrawn Snoke, just because the um ability to generate ungodly amount of resources and ability to focus an ungodly amount of dice, and then also the ability to take your opponent's best card every turn. So that's a pretty generic one, but scrolling through the cards, there's some like pretty strong support for um, TIE fighters or X-wings, but the TIE fighters are easier to get out on the board. You have in tandem spot a red character to turn any number of your vehicle dice that have the same title to sides of your choice. All right, so that's a one cost 3 to 4 focus.
Yep.
And then you also have attack formation, which is one cost spot a red character to resolve one of your non-character dice, increasing its value by the number of copies, including that one. So again, that's now you're adding 3 to 4 to that dice. Those they're two kind of like those are little gimmicky things, but it's not that hard to say that you can get those things out reliably.
No, I absolutely. I mean, a lot of times when I'm building a deck, I'm looking at it and I'm trying to put in, my upgrades or supports, whatever my preference is, maybe a mixture of both, so that you have your diced cards. And then I move on and I say, all right, I need some defensive removal cards, whether it's illusion or flank or whatever it might be. And then I try to reserve a couple slots for like economy oriented cards, like maybe two
Hmm.
slots for that, depending on my character pairing. And then I also try to put in cards that are going to advance my win condition, which are what
Yeah,
those cards would fall under. But I could absolutely see myself playing two of each of those in a deck with TIE fighters. I mean, obviously,
especially because you don't need to run that many other supports.
correct. You're gonna you don't need to draw into more supports late. All you need is a TIE fighter early. So
Yeah, you get one TIE fighter early and you have enough resources, you drop it, and then how many how many more supports are you going to play?
yeah, it's powerful. It's definitely powerful. But that is more specific than the one that I had, which was just generic vehicles. But you're also going to see, hero versions, the Lando version. You might see the Rex version that Scott hinted at. There's going to be plenty. There's going to be Snoke versions. Maybe the Snoke and the Tie Fighters probably go together. That's probably something along the lines of what I'm going to play. Um,
Because he can abuse the resources.
Absolutely, you can. I could definitely see you playing, you know, two Tie Fighters minimum on the first turn with Snoke if
Hmm.
you're able to Snoke a resource side. And then you'll probably still be able to focus the Tie Fighters into.
Now, speaking of all these vehicles, there's a lot of support hate in the set.
There is, yes. So you
Does
will be able to discard or exhaust or something these
but
supports.
does that matter?
I don't think so because I don't think supports are going to be prominent enough to warrant such a silver bullet type inclusion in a deck.
I agree. That's essentially like what I was going to say in saying and bringing up the question because I thought you were going to come to the same
See,
conclusion.
as much as you try to correct course on my deck sometimes, I do think alarmingly similarly to you.
Yeah, you got the Charlie thing going on where you're just like in in right field, left. You're trying, you're just in all of the fields at the same time sometimes. So it's just
I'm
kind of
trying
like
to be an artist, Scott. You got to
I'm
let
just
me
trying. You
breathe
got to bring.
creativity.
I got to bring you down to your center where you're making sense again.
I understand. I appreciate that. I need that, and I just wanted to let everybody know that this next portion of the podcast is dedicated to all the people in our Discord, Scott E. And then we're going to continue on now. So now, Scott, what deck do you think that you'll be playing early in the meta, or what deck types are interesting to you, characters, whatever that you think you're put together first? We're there Thursday night. We're at all the King's Men in Pittman, New Jersey. What are you sleeving up?
Nothing.
Nothing. You're just
That
sorting and trading.
yeah, that's pretty much what I did last release event. That's what I do every release event. I can never make a deck on the first day. I don't make decks to begin with, let alone like on the first day where I don't have all the cards that I want and I'm still remembering half the cards in the set. I have no idea. Zero, none ideas.
None. Okay, that's fair. So Scott's cop out. I'll give you guys
Oh
this.
yeah, total. I mean,
I
like it's accurate, but it's a cop out.
Yeah, that's all right. You're not lying, so I can vouch for that. I look at the entire card pool, and I identify that Vader is extremely strong, and there's a ton of cool new toys for me to play with. But I want to get ready for packs. I gotta focus on trilogies. Um, if they don't balance Snoke or Yoda, I'm probably still gonna try to build around one of those two characters because they fit my play style well.
You're still playing the Afro deck, right? At that point?
There's a good chance that I'll still play the Afro deck or some iteration of.
I don't
But I
know.
definitely see myself continuing to play Snoke or Yoda unless they're balanced. For fun, I'll probably try Cody Triple Clone Trooper.
Yeah, that I
I
mean
think that
that looks pretty interesting just because you're getting a discount, pretty hefty discount. Those clone troopers are
it's a lot of
not
life.
terrible.
No, they're beefy. They
That
have
is a
good
lot of
damage
life.
sides. I think that that deck could actually have some success. Mono red's not ideal, but I think from a trilogy's standpoint, I actually think that their removal package is as good as any against Vader. The thing that scares me is they have little to no hand disruption.
Yeah, but I mean they can actually affect his dice.
Well, they can affect his dice. They also have access to some of the best heal
Yeah, so that
in the
they
game,
the fact that they can't hit the hand, they are better positioned than most other colors, especially
which is
monocolors.
nice from a balance standpoint.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well, I
yeah.
mean
So that's
that actually
good.
might lead us into like the closing, some of our closing thoughts. Yeah,
Hmm.
it's we talked about it a little earlier. It's like, all right, so probably three of the more expensive cards are going to be villain blue. And then you see cards like the previewed Stifle. It's the first event a cancel that we have in the game. Now, people read it, and some people aren't aware. You do have to cancel the first event that they play. It's not optional. It's basically you put Stifle out on the board as a support, and they have to play into it, and then you cancel the first event. But that's the first time that we can cancel any event that our opponent plays, or the first event that our opponent plays. Should that unique ability, whether it's good or bad, sees play, doesn't see play, should that have went to villain blue?
No, probably not. Thematically, I think that that type of effect fits in the blue faction.
Hmm.
Maybe not necessarily villain. It could have been hero. I don't think I would have cared either way. But from a thematic standpoint, I think it's in a good place. From a power level standpoint, I think Villain Blue has notoriously been one of the stronger factions in the game. So them having access to the first event counter isn't necessarily something I'm thrilled about, but I'm not positive it's supremely playable anyway.
No, my only thing with it is if it's good, if it's playable, if it's you find a spot, there's a lot of decks in the meta where it's a good play, then it becomes an amazing play.
Agreed. I mean, well, if everybody's running three hyperspace jumps, three retreats, a bunch of fear and dead men, um, then I think it is a really good play. Um, but if the meta is not running giant costed events, then maybe it's not as good a play.
I don't even know necessarily giant costed events, but yeah, it's in that vein. It's one of those things that's why I don't necessarily like seeing it in Villain Blue because I'm not saying it's good or bad, going to see play or not going to see play. But if it's good, then it's really good, and you just gave it to the faction that's probably in the best position in the game right now.
I agree. I agree. Villain Blue can do the vehicle thing. Blue can do the aggro thing. Maybe Villain Blue can't mill, but outside of that, I think Villain Blue is versatile and powerful for
Yeah,
sure. I
I
mean, Vader and Snoke are easily two of the most powerful characters in the game,
hell,
as is right.
I'll try Dooku Snoke with that new plot.
Yeah, Dooku Snoke with that new plot. Oh,
Yeah,
that's a
try to keep people off snoking when they can change their dice
yeah. No, that's
without
real.
focus
That's
sides.
real strong. I mean, you could force speed Snoke up and then roll him in first, then roll Dooku in with two actions.
Yeah, and Dooku's got enough health that he can take the two.
Oh, he that's a 23 health. That's not bad
No, 21 health after the plot.
after the plot. True, 21. No, I like that. There you go, Scott. That's what Scott's sleeving up.
Yeah, I got all
Night one.
I got all those cards. I'll
As long,
I probably won't pull the
yeah,
plot.
you'll get no stifle.
I'll need no. I won't. I don't even know if I'd run. I the last thing I would run day one is Stifle
Yeah,
because I you would
yeah, stifle's a better call.
you have no concept of what's in your opponent's deck necessarily, so you don't know the tempo of that the play needs to be.
You will play against Fear and Dead Men.
You will play, yeah, you'll play against. But if I'm playing a two character deck, do I really care about Fear and Dead Men?
Here's the thing about the 2 character, 3 character, 4 character, whatever it is. If it takes away half your life, it takes away half your life. You're still better off if you have 3 characters worth of life than 2 characters worth of life.
Yeah.
Fear and Dead Men is it does more damage to a 3 character deck, but it's not like from a. I'd still rather have my damage spread out amongst 3 characters as opposed to two. So Fear and Dead Men's still good against two, even though you get more damage against three. I still think it's good against two. So I would still run it if everything is too wide.
Well, what are we saying? Like, what do you say? Like the average health cost of a or health of a two character deck is like 21.
Yeah, probably about 21, something in
What do
that
we want to
ballpark.
say for a three character deck? 27.
27, I think, would be slightly on the low end, maybe 28.
Call 28. So yeah, I mean those are pretty big deals as far as what you're I'm trying to. I'm literally bringing up cell. Yeah, all right. So it's relatively close as far as the percentage of life that Fear and Dead Men, assuming like a three cost or three
Yeah,
value.
I'm saying is it's still good against two, as a but like it's
Yeah,
yeah, it feels good to deal 12 damage against a 3 character deck, but dealing 8 damage to a 2 character deck and taking both of those characters to about half of their health
yeah.
pool, assuming they may already have 1 or 2 damage on them, is still really powerful.
Are people overvaluing melee salvo?
Um, I don't know. I think that maybe slightly overvalued, but it's kind of because you have this character that's just really good with it, Invader, more so than you do for regular
Mm.
Salvo.
I just
And the fact that you can resolve the die for free is the caveat that kind of puts it over the top for
yeah.
me.
If you couldn't resolve it for three, all of a sudden you got problems.
Yeah, because it's just not as good a value then. But as it stands right now, I think it's a great value. You're paying 2 resources, playing a card, removing a die. You're dealing 8 to 12 damage, maybe 9 damage, maybe 6 damage. But either way, 2 resources and the card, the action, the die. You're coming out ahead on damage.
Yeah, you're getting. I mean, you're getting the value that you need to get even against a two character build.
Yep.
It's close though. It's very like the efficiency is very, very close.
It is, but it's still a viable play.
Melee salvo.
Melee salvo. So those are our closing thoughts. Apparently, we're real quick. I just want to tell you we do have a Patreon. If you guys are interested in supporting us, we try to give that back to raffles, any events we're at. We always try to bring cool swag with some of our logos on it. We try to put give boxes away. We're having another learn to play launch party at All the King's Men in Pittman on release day. We're encouraging new players to come out. We're going to be having some stuff to give away. We're also going to be running a draft for veteran players so that we can get people in, get cards in people's hands. People are going to be popping packs. We're going to be trading. Scott's not going to build anything,
God no.
but we're all going to be there. I'll probably be there a little late. Shane allegedly will be there. I don't know.
If
That's what he said.
Shane will, I would give this significantly. Like normally, you'd be like 15 to 1 odds Shane showing up to like anything. This would he'd probably get like 10 to 1.
Yeah, well, it's not a competitive event, so it's more in his wheelhouse. By the way, did you see that Mike Jem totally wrecked him in his article talking about our spoilers?
I didn't.
It was
What did he
amazing.
say?
He was like, I don't remember exactly. He listed like all of us that wrote our thoughts on the cards,
Oh
and
yeah,
then he
and no one
Jake
else.
and someone and no one else. Or yeah, it was
And no,
amazing.
Yeah, that was pretty. Did he say
I actually
anything
got to
about how
finish
I'm Thanos?
him. You are Thanos.
Hey, hey, I got you to admit it.
That's it. You are Thanos. So,
Yes.
in continuing on with our Patreon, we also have our tokens coming in. Allegedly, Jack said that they were shipped as of last Friday. So they should be in our hands soon. We hope to have them for the Learn to Play event, and we're going to be sending them out to everyone in our $10 tier on Patreon. And that's about it. I don't think there's much else to plug. I know Jack's got us out there on Facebook and whatever other social medias. I do very little here. I just kind of show up and talk and build decks.
You're doing more than me, where all I'm doing is showing up and talking.
I'm kind of rambling on at this point, though. So
Nah, you got all like the boilerplate stuff we need to hit. Like you did a good job. I'm
thank you.
impressed.
I appreciate that. Do you want to take the
What
final
do we
word
need?
or do you want me to?
Yeah, what do we need Jack for anyway?